All right. Well, let's get started. People can continue coming in as we go along. And yeah, welcome everybody who's here to our seventh community call. Also happens to be in the seventh month of the year. Um, and yeah, this call, like all the others, is really to give you some updates on what's been happening, to give you the chance to speak to us directly, and yeah, to also highlight our amazing community members, which are always helping us in growing our node count, growing the community, and making sure that everybody who's new and joining is well set up. And yeah, just a few logistical things. So we will kick the call off with some updates from our site, and then we will open up the stage for broader discussions. And at that point, you can always raise your hand here in the server, in the audience, and request to come on stage to speak to us directly. Or if you want to, you can also drop your questions in the stage questions channel, and we will pick up as many as we can directly from there. And also, just for your information, the call is being recorded. So if you do decide to speak on stage, just know that you might be on a recording later on YouTube. And yeah, that's it on the logistical side. A few words to the people on stage with me today. Today we have Luke, our head of community, Jasmine, our technical communications manager, and Neo, who is also in part of our community management team. And yeah, let's start with the updates at Minima. And today we actually also will have some direct words on partnerships, but maybe let's start with you first, Jasmine. Is there anything new you've been working on last month that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so obviously we've got the highly anticipated release of our mini dApps, which are coming back. So I've been working on creating some educational materials around mini dApps and also Maxima, which I'll talk a little bit about later. And I've been creating some help documentation for the new app and just kind of doing some testing around the new application as well.
All right, great. And one of the big things we had also going out last month is that we have secured a partnership and that we are now that we've been selected as one of hundreds of companies to be working with Mobility X Lab. And we have our VP of Partnership here to walk us through that, what that means, what it entails. And yeah, so Adam, there you are. That was fast. You're currently on mute, so.
There we go. Great. Thank you, Noemi. Nice to be here and join the community call. I've been working in this role of head of partnerships since late last year, and we've now got traction in a number of areas, but today's call will focus on the mobility space. So the future of cars are going to be self-driving and autonomous vehicles. And currently, the solution that people are integrating is a sort of a hybrid between nodes on cars or nodes on servers talking to each other. But this is a non-decentralized system. So it's really critical that information can get passed between cars operating in an autonomous way, where the data is secure and censorship resistant. And this is becoming clearer as several car companies have experienced network problems, and they're unable to access their cars for a few minutes or up to an hour, and then of course the functionality disappears. So we've been working with partners mainly in the Swedish car industry, and we've just announced being accepted. So we are there were hundreds of applications, and there were 11 companies chosen to work with 7 of the large car manufacturers in Sweden, including Volvo Cars, Volvo Lorries, Polestar, Lynk & Co, and then also 2 companies connected with self-driving sensors. So we will kick this project off with them in September, and it will be a 6-month project with a possibility to extend for a year. And we will be working with some of these partners to deliver a node on a vehicle where every car is its own economic autonomous unit, looking after its own data and making sure that the data is passed in real time between connected cars. So it's a very exciting opportunity, and clearly this is just the beginning of cars interacting with cars and with smart cities and with infrastructure. So it's a great opportunity for us to be there at the beginning, and clearly Minima being open source software means that this solution that we develop for one car company will be also available for other car companies. And we hope to provide the rails for communication in all connected vehicles.
Yeah, and what do you think having, for example, your car be an entire node would mean for the average driver?
Well, the benefit we get, of course, is just expanding the number of nodes in the network. So the particular company that we are dealing with has 800 potential cars in their fleet. 800 million cars in their fleet.
Quite the
But for the
difference.
yeah, so we are expecting to grow the network. The good thing of having nodes in cars is, of course, the cars will tend to be in the most highly populated areas. So that means you have a strengthening of the connections of networks in an area that's most densely populated. That will add efficiency to the network. So when the benefit for car drivers is that cars will end up being able to pay for their own services. They'll be able to pay automatically for charging. And you'll just have a monthly contract with the car company where you will just agree that the car will be responsible for its paying. But a lot of the focus from the car companies is on data security, both from making sure the algorithms are correct and they can't be hacked. And also, the key for them is to remove the need for a centralized server. So if every car in their fleet relies on a server communicating with them flawlessly, of course they have huge vulnerabilities. So if you have a truly decentralized peer-to-peer network, then you can make sure the communication is passed through the network without any third-party coordinator.
Yeah, pretty exciting times. So hopefully that's gonna get through, and then a lot of cars will be Minima nodes, and people might not even realize.
Exactly, that's right. And you know, we are offering a unique opportunity here because no other blockchain solution can provide full nodes on devices. So that's why we were chosen, and this is you know, a really great potential to show real value and utility for the protocol that we built.
Awesome.
So that's potential for vehicle to vehicle, but also vehicle to machine, right? So
Yes.
you could pay for your petrol, for example.
Yep, pay for charging, you know, pay for tolls, pay for you know, services, and every car will have its own digital logbook. So you have complete immutable truth showing the history of your car. So it'll have improved resale value and again, data security. And the key is the person driving the car can still be anonymous, so that the car companies won't be collecting data about you personally. It will simply be restricted to the car node.
And potentially in future, when less people own cars and just rent them, that might be another benefit.
That's exactly right. I mean, the future finally will be renting. People won't own their own cars. That's what they predict. And it'll be a sharing economy. So you simply dial like you do an Uber, you'll just simply request a car. It will come up, pick you up, provide a service, and then you leave it again. So that's exactly right. But the key then is planning for infrastructure, making sure that all car OEMs are prepared to subscribe to the same communication network. So big step forward, and I'll keep you updated as we progress. So more news towards the end of the year.
Great. So we will have you more on these calls, so you can provide the updates directly.
Yep, look forward to it.
All right. Thank you very much. And Luke, you are on and off stage today, but are you okay to maybe share some updates?
Hi, yes. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Yes, I'm out and about today, so yeah, cutting in and out. Apologies for that. The big update that I'll reveal, so I don't steal Jasmine's thunder, is we obviously put a press release out in this last month confirming that we are now comfortably over 100,000 nodes on our network, on our testnet, which puts us comfortably ahead of Bitcoin. And it's a big piece of news, huge news really. And we continue to look forward to growing up towards that million node target that we have for mainnet.
Awesome. And yeah, from my side, I can just say developers should keep an eye on this space because big things are coming. I can't really say much more, but yeah, next week you will know more. And yeah, one more thing that makes our community so amazing is that we have a lot of people that are collaborating and always working together to making sure that anybody who joins has a good experience and gets their questions answered whenever they come up. And yeah, one of those has been Mamont, who is our community of the month member of the month for June, for being really helpful in the chat to get people set up with their nodes or whenever they encountered questions, and was a lot of the time faster even to answer than we could. So shout out to you. And we're going to get him on stage to speak a bit. And we also have a translator with us to make sure that everything he says is going to be translated and communicated correctly, because of course we understand we have community worldwide and we want to be as open as possible. So yeah, congratulations, Mamont, and thank you so much for being here. And also thank you to you, Yuri, for being our trusted translator again.
You are welcome.
Yeah, it's always great. Maybe one day we will actually learn the language as well. After mainnet launch, when we have time. So, Mamont, yeah, thanks again for joining and being so active in our community. Could you quickly introduce yourself and tell us how you found out about Minima?
Да, конечно. Всем привет, очень приятно здесь находиться. Меня зовут Дмитрий, я из Украины, город Одесса. Я думаю, многие с СНГ комьюнити меня уже знают.
Hi everyone, I'm glad to be here. My name is Dmitry, I'm from Ukraine, the city of Odessa, and I think many people from the CIS community know me.
В конце 2021 года я познакомился для себя с таким новым термином как ноды.
At the end of the 2021, I got familiar with the new term for myself, nodes.
Вот. И уже в январе этого года я поставил свою первую ноду. Я решил начать с самой простой, и это оказалось Minima.
In January 2022, I decided to run my first node and choose the lightest and the easiest one. It was Minima.
Через некоторое время я более детально изучил этот проект, и мне очень понравилось, как команда подошла к вопросу с децентрализацией. И я, в принципе, считаю, что проект Minima сейчас один из наиболее перспективных на данный момент.
After a while, I learned about the project in detail, and I really liked how the team approached the issue of decentralization. And I believe that this is one of the most promising projects at the moment.
В апреле я присоединился к амбассадорской программе. Я стал грант-амбассадором, меня короновал лично Люк. Вот такой мой ответ.
In April, I joined the ambassador program, and here I am. And Luke personally nominated me as a grant ambassador. That's my story.
Awesome. So have you previously been already in the crypto and blockchain space, or was it your very first experience in this industry?
На самом деле у меня не такой неплохой опыт в финансовых рынках. Я начинал с трейдинга в 2019 году.
Yeah, I have pretty good experience working with the financial markets previously. I started trading in 2019.
В 2020 я активно продолжал изучать финансовый рынок и уже неплохо торговал, так скажем, на фондовых рынках.
In 2020, I'm actually traded on the stock market and continue to learn about the financial markets in general.
В 2021 году мне повезло стать финансовым экспертом. Я работал экспертом по вопросу инвестиций в фондовые рынки.
In 2021, I even worked as a financial expert of investment stock markets, and
И также в этом году, благодаря своему товарищу, я пришел на крипторынок.
thanks to my friend, at this year I smoothly switched to crypto.
А насчет блокчейна я был самым обычным рядовым пользователем. Разбираться более детально, как они работают, я начал благодаря Миниме. Можно сказать, что она у меня первая.
About blockchains, I was an ordinary user, and I started to dive into the blockchain with Minima. I would say it was my first such project.
Oh, that's great. I mean, also this year is quite the time to switch from traditional markets to crypto, considering what's been happening. Okay, so with that in mind, if you could build anything or do anything with the Minima network, what would it be?
Ну, это достаточно сложный вопрос, так как я не разработчик и не разбираюсь в технических моментах.
This is really difficult question for me, since I'm not a developer and do not understand technical issues so deep, but
Но мне кажется, да, была бы хорошая идея реализовать какое-то приложение для проведения различных голосований.
But it seems to me that it would be a good idea to implement some kind of application for conducting various voting processes.
Просто представьте, как было бы круто, если бы каждый пользователь вот в своем смартфоне, благодаря Миниме, мог бы голосовать за какие-то глобальные вещи.
Imagine how cool it would be when every user on their smartphone could vote for global things.
И в этом случае блокчейн Minima выступал бы в роли независимого посредника, и мы были бы точно уверены, что голосование происходит честно.
For example, we could vote and use the Minima as a blockchain which can be independent intermediary and would be confident in the honesty of this voting.
Конечно, я понимаю, что для такого нужно очень жестко бороться с мультихакингом, но сама идея, она может очень сильно развиться. К примеру, даже за голосование будущих президентов все это может происходить на блокчейне.
Of course, for this, you need to fight against the multi-accountings, but it would but I would like to participate in such elections as an example in the future, and this will be really cool.
У меня все.
I'm done.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Thank you.
Voting is definitely an interesting one, and a few blockchain companies have already tried it. Obviously, they weren't necessarily as distributed as Minima, but you can join forces with Jasmine. She's also interested in building something like this. So who knows? Maybe it's going to happen sooner than you think.
Юрий, можешь еще от меня добавить, что мне очень приятно, что меня выбрали участником месяца. Я бы хотел пожелать всей команде успехов в их нелегком деле.
Mehmet want to add that he's really proud to be selected as an ambassador of the month, and he wanted to wish you guys to all the best.
Yeah, thank you
in
so
your
much.
development in your development path.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for being here and being part of our community, and of course, our ambassador program. And we're looking forward to seeing more from you. And you don't need to be a developer always to develop apps or have ideas. So definitely, I encourage everybody who's not a techie to still have ideas and just shout them out. Yeah, thank you so much, and congratulations again. You're welcome to stay on stage or go back to the audience. And also thank you to Yuri for translating and helping us understand.
Thank you.
And yeah, so moving on, Jasmine would like to speak about something that she has been excited about, and that is Maxima. I think a lot of people like to learn more about the different layers that Minima has and how it works in detail. So yeah, Jasmine, what is Maxima and how does it work?
Yeah, thanks, Naomi. I should also just say that I've been playing around with creating my first mini DApp, and I'm not particularly technical. by any means. So if I can do it, anyone here can do it. So Marmont, don't be put off. But yes, Maxima. So just wanted to talk a little bit about Maxima because obviously it's one of our core components. And so Maxima is really the it's the layer 0 of Minima, and it allows nodes in the network to communicate, to send messages to each other. And every Minima node includes Maxima as per our next release. So Maxima you can think of as, if Minima is for transferring value, Maxima is for transferring information, all within the Minima peer-to-peer network. And it's kind of our answer to the cancel culture that has arisen in the world of big tech, because it's a way of sending messages peer-to-peer in a censorship-resistant manner. And messages that are sent over Maxima are encrypted end-to-end, so that even nodes in the middle who are forwarding messages, they aren't able to read what's being sent. So how it will work is that on Maxima, you will set up contacts, and these are the contacts that you want to be able to chat with and communicate with over Maxima. And this will all be done through the same Minima node that you're running. And once you've got your contacts set up, you will be able to use a mini DApp, and I can talk a little bit about mini DApps afterwards. The one that we'll be releasing very soon is called Max Solo, and it's a chat app that will allow you to chat with your Maxima contacts over the Minima network. And there's a few interesting things about Maxima, and the first one is that it actually helps to strengthen the security of the Minima network. And this is because that the way that Spartacus Rex has built it is that each time you send a message over Maxima to one of your contacts, you need to perform a small amount of work. So POW, proof of work, or in Minima we call it TX POW. And so instead of having to pay money or Minima coins to send your messages, you won't actually need to have any Minima coins at all, because you'll be paying in work, which is helping to increase the hash rate of the Minima network, which improves the security. So the more messages that everybody sends over Maxima, the more proof of work that secures the network. The more secure the network, the more value that can be stored. And the more value that can be stored, the more valuable. So Maxima is unique in that it's actually helping to make Minima more secure. And so, yes, so everybody will have a contact address, and this will actually change from time to time. So this means that if I connect with Naomi, then after a certain time period, my address will change, and my node is going to inform Naomi of my new location in the network. And so we'll remain connected. But what this does mean is that if I fall out with Naomi and I no longer want to speak to her, I can get rid of her from my contacts, and then after a certain time period, she'll no longer be able to contact me because my address will have changed. So that's just another kind of interesting feature of Maxima. And as I mentioned before, messages are encrypted end-to-end. And so, yeah, we're just really excited to kind of get this in the hands of everybody. We are testing this at the moment and kind of doing some fine tuning. So as soon as that's ready to go out, we will obviously be getting it into your hands. And may I talk a little bit about mini dApps, Naomi?
So I was just gonna say it's great to know I will be ghosted by you in the future using Maxima.
Of course not.
Yeah, sure. Tell us more about Minidevs.
Great, thanks. So yes, with this new release, we will have the Minidap system, and the Minidap system is an open application ecosystem. So that means that's similar to the operating system that runs on your mobile phone that enables you to use Android applications. The Minidap system on Minima will enable you to use Minidaps. And these are decentralized applications running over Minima's blockchain and peer-to-peer network. So these are web applications that use the Minima blockchain, Maxima, and everything that comes with the Minima peer-to-peer network. In the future, a layer 2 as well, Omnia. And so it's kind of true Web3 applications because, as we all know, everybody running a Minima node is running a complete node. So we're all essentially running a small server from our device. And the Minidap can be created for almost anything. So already spoke voting a bit, decentralized finance, gaming, marketplaces, messaging, obviously, just mentioned Max Solo, even kind of social media type applications. Because what's interesting now is that these mini dApps, because we have Maxima, are actually combining not only transactions using Minima, but also messages. So you can think of maybe a Twitter-like application, but also allows you to, because that's messages, but then also you can do transactions in that application. So in the new release, we will have a core set of mini dApps, and they will be a wallet. So obviously you'll be able to manage the funds that you have on the Minima blockchain. We'll have a news feed. So this is just kind of keeping you up to date with what's going on. We'll have a block explorer. We will obviously have the Max Solo mini dApp, which is the chat app. And we're also going to be releasing a script development environment so that the developers can start to build scripts using the Minima KISS scripting language. Then we'll have the terminal and an incentive program mini dApp for you as well. And you'll be able to just, on the mobile device, you'll be able to just open these mini dApps up and start using them. So yeah, as I said, very excited, and anyone can learn to build a mini dApp. I've even done it, so looking forward to seeing contributions from lots of people in the community.
Wow, on that note, you just mentioned KISS as the programming language, and I reckon it has nothing to do with some adult activities. So what does it stand for, and how do we learn it?
Yeah, so KISS actually stands for Keep It Simple, Stupid, and it's kind of the basis behind the whole of Minima. Minima has been designed to be as simple as possible because it's quite easy to make things complicated, but it's actually difficult to make things simple. And so we will be creating documentation for developers, explaining how to build mini dApps, and we will be releasing a transaction tutorial so that you can have a play around with, manually constructing transactions and interacting with the Minima blockchain. And that's how you'll be able to learn KISS. And hopefully, you guys will all kind of help each other out and have a play around and see what's possible.
Yeah, sounds good. And maybe another question that has also been put into the Stage Questions channel. So how are Maxima and Minima nodes different? Is there any difference? And does it have any impact on reward payments?
So from this new release, Maxima is going to be bundled in the same node. So there'll be no difference in how you currently run it for the Android users. You'll just install a new app. And for the people who are running it on their laptops or desktop, it will just be a new jar file that you'll upgrade, and you'll automatically get the Maxima functionality with that. As for the incentive rewards, those will just continue as they are currently.
All right, sounds good. And also probably one of those things where you make it easier by just bundling things.
Exactly.
Yeah, so anybody who has questions on Maxima or Minideps, feel free to use stage questions, raise your hand, or maybe if you want to think about it first, you can always catch us later as well. We are around. And yeah, moving on to maybe what we've been seeing in the broader markets, or what you've been doing in the broader markets. Are there any DeFi experiments or crypto trends you've observed last month and you found quite interesting? Neo, maybe you want to go and share something.
Sure. For trend, I mean, I remain a pessimistic person. So I believe that what we've been seeing, which is sort of like a stabilization within the market, I think that's just a pretty solid bull trap. But that's just my opinion. As for anything that's been going on in the market, I'm honestly quite angry with the whole situation with like the venture capitals. For example, 3 Arrow Capital it's closed down now. With they'd given loans or taken loans, I don't remember.
They have
But that was a
taken them.
pretty taken them, yeah. Pretty
Yeah.
dramatic situation with travel. Was it Traveler? Who we were
Voyager.
talking about before? In Voyager, yeah.
Voyager. Yeah.
Yeah, that the situation is not. I feel like it's not getting any better.
Yeah.
You know.
It's true. I think that was probably one of the most notable trends of June, that all these supposedly adults in the industry turned out to have the same risk management strategies as the degens sitting in their basements and YOLOing their money on, I don't know, GameStop or NFTs and whatever Shiba Moon coin they could find. And yeah, the only problem is that they play with a lot more money and unfortunately take loans from also exchanges that probably couldn't even afford to give such huge loans to other companies. But yeah, interestingly, it's all the centralized custodial kind of platforms that are going
Yeah.
impacted by
Yeah,
this.
absolutely.
And DeFi seems to be okay. I mean, yeah.
And moving aside from the general market overview, I also wanted to contribute like an idea for the mini dApps, which I'd seen from our team at one point a while ago. I remember someone talking about a Instagram-like app where you could have a feed looking almost exactly the same, and you'd have a feed on other people's NFTs. And it reminded me that originally the usage for NFTs was not to give them immense amounts of value. There's a lot more technology behind that than just them being unique and accumulating value. They can be served as keys to access different things, etc. So I just thought it was an interesting idea that perhaps we could see once the mini dApps release, if a community developer wishes to make something like that, where NFTs become more accessible for everyone, and practically everyone has a portfolio, with maybe 50 to 100 cheap NFTs, and you can just see them on the feed.
Yeah, I think there's already some movements. Some companies, they start to provide things like galleries where you can display your NFTs nicely on a feed. And it's basically like Notion, but it is Web3 native. But yeah, I think it's definitely still very inaccessible for people outside of it. And it's very much, oh yeah, just trust the process, even though you don't really know what's happening. And a lot of people even buying NFTs don't necessarily check things like metadata or contracts before they sign things.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think
Well, hopefully it becomes something more mainstream, more accessible on Minima.
I hope so as well. And maybe even it will open your car eventually.
Yeah.
And how about you, Luke?
Yeah, like you've already touched on, really, it's the sea of red and how it's impacting upon people, and yeah, all these margin calls and liquidations, and how it's causing a bit of a reckoning, really. Like you said, the risk management seemed to be based around the idea of an eternal bull run, which is just a bit crazy. And I suppose the hope is that at the ashes of this will come a much more quote unquote sensible approach. But time will tell, right?
Yeah. So, what's your take on platforms like these? I mean, I do get that a lot of people who are from outside of the industry might have a difficulty using something like Compound or just trusting that that's going to be all right, and they might feel better if they have an Nexo where they can call the customer support if something is wrong. How do you see that play out in the future?
I think if you're gonna, if for like the average crypto user, I think what they would like to see is some sort of trust that if they're going to use these kind of products, that they're not going to get stung. I think to a degree, there's an understanding that it's all a bit nascent still, so there's not those protections that perhaps something that's come from more traditional investing into crypto might have expected there to be and has found there not to be. And I think that if you want to reach a wider audience and gain that trust back, there will be this requirement, I think, to have some sort of real person you can speak to, at least in the short term, until people's trust is regained.
Yeah, has any of you ever used any of these platforms? I mean, not the ones that went down specifically, but platforms where you can earn an interest. Jasmine.
I was very close to using Celsius because.
Would have been an
Can you hear me
expensive
okay?
lesson. Yeah, would have been an expensive
Yeah.
lesson.
I know. I mean, they entice you with referral rewards, high interest, and I don't remember who said that quote now, but it's like picking up pennies in front of a freight train. Especially for kind of the average retail investor who doesn't have too much to invest. Seeing these high yields is attractive, but in the grand scheme of things, when you end up losing everything because you've put it into an untrustworthy centralized entity, it's really not worth it. And unfortunately, we're just seeing these crypto entities which are actually behaving like traditional banks. They're not transparent. They're suffering from human greed and bias, and it's all impacting the retail investors.
Yeah,
Here's a question. Just quick,
yeah.
a question to you all. If you see something that's got a really high yield, when you see that, does that make you question it, or do you actually believe that's possible? Do you think that somewhere down the line someone's going to be left holding a bag? I mean, what kind of goes to your mind if you get attracted to that kind of thing?
If I may, I was part of the band of people who got tricked by Ohm and Time, or Wonderland as you know it.
Wow.
Yeah, Olympus was offering like 7,000% APR, and back then I remember it was back in like October, November 2021. I remember the period back then when you had these APR chaser, or like yield chasers is what you called them. I just joined the group. I was like, whoa, what is this? This is new. This is cool, Turns out the tokenomics and the idea behind it didn't work as much as people wanted it to.
Yeah, I think a lot of these are also a timing question. I guess if you see these things, obviously you don't necessarily think it's gonna keep going forever. Well, if you do, it's a bit naive, I guess. But sometimes it's just a question of timing. I know people who made enough in Ohm and Time to retire. So, of course, in the end, it's at the expense of the people who bought in at the top and held it down to the bottom. But yeah, I do get the attraction.
I actually got in when it was like, well, not the top. It was like I got in at like 600, thinking I believed like in the fundamentals, and I was like, this could go somewhere. And I still have my money in it because I'd have to pay more in fees to take it out than, to leave it there. But I think it's part of like the broader scheme of crypto, as in crypto is often sold as a get rich quick sort of thing. But what you don't realize is that in order for you to get rich, other people have to lose a lot of money.
Yeah. I think if you don't know where the yield is coming from, your other yield is like the most appropriate way to put it. But yeah, hopefully we will see more sustainable business models going forward. Yeah, moving on to maybe a few of the community questions. So one of them is, which might happen to a few people, somebody's mailbox has been stolen or hacked, so they can't access it anymore. What should they do, and can they increase the security of their account? I assume this is regarding the incentive program. Luke, what do you say to these people?
Yeah, sure. Someone stole your email account. I mean, that's...
Or maybe hacked it.
I mean, hacked it, yeah. I guess use 2FA. It's
Yeah.
the best way to secure your account. But if in the event that you have lost access to that account, if you come through to support, we can help you out. We'll ask you some questions to help us confirm you are who you say you are, and then we'll help you change the email address against your account.
Great. So anybody who ever loses access and panics because they can't get into their incentive accounts, we can help you regain access. Just come to our support team. And another question that was put into there is, do you plan to reach out to any established figures in the crypto space to put some of those Minima versus blog posts into real-world discussions? Thoughts on that?
I think that sounds like a great idea, and I will pass that on to marketing to set something like that up. And
great.
I think it'd be great if we could get some characters here, maybe like Paddy versus some of the technical founders. That would be incredible. Oh.
Yeah, the only one I know in person is Roger Ver, so that could be quite fun. I think they would just yell at each other, so I'm not sure that works, but it's possible. I would like to see Peter Schiff as well, but that's just my personal. But yeah, definitely we can look into that and hopefully make it happen. And then there's also a question about when will the app be in the Play Store? Desmond, any news for people asking that question?
Yes, so we are currently testing this, and so we're pleased to say that our next version of the Minima app will be in the Google Play Store.
So you will get your Minima in the Play Store in the future. And yeah, there's also questions on, will there be updates on the invite function? I think this is mostly about, will it be possible for people to track how many people they invited, and more importantly, if these people are running nodes, and if not, who isn't?
Yes, it's a great question, and the short answer is at the moment that would require more development into the incentive cash mini DApp, and it's not a part of this current build. But if any of you have queries around that, then please do come to me, and I can have a look into that for you. Saying that, I'm well aware of what I've just invited of myself, but anyone out there, worrying or being concerned, so please, do get in touch.
Yes, everybody is going to send you bananas after this call. It could happen. I did not encourage this. Maybe to speak a bit more about recent events again. So there was yet another bridge hack, of course, but this time it was only 100 million, which in the grand scheme of bridge hacks is not that much. But the funny or interesting thing is that, so it happened on Harmony, and the funds that were stolen were in ETH. And so they offered him 1 million to release the funds. but the hacker didn't really care and started sending money to Tornado Cash. So, first of all, how could the hacker even get the funds? Jasmine, maybe you have an explanation on that.
Yeah, so as far as I understand, this was a cross-chain bridge to Ethereum, and all the hacker needed was 2 out of 5 signatures from a multi-signature wallet. So even though there were, in theory, 5 signatures, the hacker only needed 2 to actually access these funds. And I don't know exactly how they managed to get them, but they did, and they were able to access 100 million of people's money.
Yeah, it seems that we still like to use multi-sigs. What do you think would be a secure setup for multi-sig if you had to set one up for people to access your funds?
It's a good question.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably more than 2 out of 5.
More than 2, yeah.
I would probably aim for something that a majority, from whatever number it is.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, the hacker did the thing that all the hackers do when they steal some crypto. They send it to Tornado Cash. Luke, what is Tornado Cash for those that have never heard of it? And do you think it's a necessary service?
Yeah, so Tornado Cash is a fully decentralized protocol for sending private transactions anonymously using Ethereum. It sort of spawned out as Zcash, and it uses zero knowledge proof as its kind of authentication. Essentially, what it allows you to do is send transaction from one address to another, and then once you move it on to the final address, the sort of connection is severed, making it completely anonymous effectively. And yes, it lends itself, I suppose, if you want to use it in that way, to this kind of naughtiness. But it's like anything else. You build a tool, and how it's used is down to the person using it. And I think there's plenty of legitimate reasons why you'd want to have your transactions be anonymous. And I think there is a place for that, if not necessarily, Tornado Cash as it exists, something else down the line. Something through Minima, for example. I think there's a place in the world for that.
So it's going to be Minima Cash. Whoever builds that. Have you ever used it? For legitimate reasons, of course.
No, I haven't ever used anything like that because I've never needed to obfuscate any transactions. But I think that kind of development is important. I think it's important for people to have the choice. Ultimately, most people will favour expediency over difficulty, so you don't see it being used like a mass adoption type thing, even if it costs people more in fees to do it the traditional way. They tend to, but I think it's good to have the option there for if you ever need it.
Yes, I agree. I've also never used it, but I find the whole idea of coin mixers quite interesting in terms of how it works technically and how they just mix the funds and signatures you put in with other people's, so nobody knows whose funds are yours. And yeah, there's a whole discussion to be had about how high the anonymity sets or how high this entire mixing process should be and how many others you have to mix it with to make sure it's actually untraceable. But that's probably something to discuss on an AMA with Paddy and not here. Okay, some more community questions. So how are we looking on our road to mainnet? Any status updates on Minima, Maxima, Omnia, the node count versus the plan so far?
I'm happy to talk about node count, and then Jazz, if you want to sort of talk about where we are from a testing perspective. So node count wise, I think what's been intimated out there is obviously that we're looking to get to 1 million by the back end of by Q3, and we're just north or sort of anywhere between 110 and 135,000 nodes on a given day, and that fluctuation is based upon an issue I think we discussed last call, which is where incentive cash has an issue with it where not everybody collects every day. So from a reporting standpoint, we will only ever report the accurate figure reported for the day previous. But what it isn't actually doing is reflecting every single node that's active on the network. And I can say that the figure, if we were able to get, which hopefully we will or should be able to with the next release, get every node to collect accurately on the same day, we would have a much higher figure, which would put us absolutely on track for where we need to be. But we won't discuss that figure until we can see it come out through the reporting, so we can actually stand behind that. But yes, so yeah, that's where we are on the node count.
Okay, and yeah, the testing, Jasmine.
Yeah, so this week we started testing, as we've already mentioned. So obviously the most important thing is just to flush out any kind of easy issues or bugs that we can fix quickly. The most important thing for mainnet is that Minima is complete as a protocol, and happy to say that we're at the stage now where we have a functionality freeze. So all we'll be working on is bugs that come up effectively. And so, but also to mention that when we do launch, the part of the protocol that needs to be finished is the consensus critical elements. And what that means is that any element of the Minima network that is required for all the nodes to agree on the state of the blockchain. Anything that goes around that would be considered not consensus critical. So anything that's not going to trigger a fork in the network. And those things can continue to be worked on after mainnet launch. But the Minima protocol as it stands, we have a candidate that is potentially ready for release, save any issues that come up.
That sounds like we are on track. And yeah, then there's another question as well. It's probably for Luke. And this is a math question. So the question is, will 300 million tokens go to 1 million nodes? I think this is related to the token allocation we have and the goal of having 1 million nodes at mainnet launch.
Yes, absolutely. So yes, the aim is to get those coins distributed through many means, whether it's the incentive program, through the developer incentive program that's going to be coming up, and through any other events, competitions, or happenings that we're going to do between now and then. But yes, the aim is to get those coins into the community's hands as distributed, decentralized as possible.
Okay, and maybe you can also say a word on passive income, passive income for nodes after the launch.
Yeah, sure. So once we launch, you as community members will have a choice to continue as a part of the incentive rewards program, leaving your coins up to date where they are, and you will continue to earn into the future. Or you can choose to take them out of the incentive program, put them into your wallet, and then use them as you wish. But at that point, you will no longer earn any incentive tokens for running your node. So you have this binary choice: continue to earn, or continue to earn in a known way through your node, or take it out and use it within the ecosystem and try and grow that way. Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, maybe put it in the next Wonderland, or better not. Okay, and one question I think, and maybe the last question for this call, but it comes up quite a lot. When will we have to KYC and what will it entail?
It's the KYC question. So yes, there will be
Yeah.
KYC. It will happen. It will happen between TGE and mainnet, and it will be required from a statutory, regulatory standpoint in order for us to get these tokens out to you at mainnet. It is a necessary hurdle that we've got to overcome, and yeah, everyone will have to go through that to get hold of their tokens. And obviously, we are aware of some of the issues around that, and we are working to address them. As soon as we have concrete detail on what the process for KYC will be, the date at which it will happen, and how it impacts various elements of our community, we will of course communicate that to you.
Okay, and just one more quick one, which is also another one from Twitter, I think. It's about Q3 mainnet launch. Does that mean the beginning, the middle, or end of Q3?
It means Q3. Obviously, we are aiming to launch as early as possible in Q3, but
Yeah.
we have to allow for the fact that we're still in development, and whatever it is, whatever the release candidate for mainnet ends up being, we want it to be the very best version it can be. So if we have to move further into Q3, then we will, and we are guided by the technical team on that regard. And again, as we get updates from them, we will communicate them on to you.
Yes, that we will. And yeah, Q3. That's when we're going to launch mainnet, and a lot of exciting things will happen. All right, and I think it's a good place to wrap this call up. Thanks everybody for joining. We will publish the recording as soon as we've polished it up a bit. And yes, we will leave the stage questions channel open for a bit. So if you still have questions on things that you heard during this call, feel free to drop them in there and we will get back to you. And yeah, thanks everybody for joining and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone, and congratulations to Mamont.
Yep, congratulations, definitely. We cannot, our community is what it is because of people like Mamont. I mean, we know there are many of you in the community like him, and we love working with you. So thank you, everybody, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Yep.
Bye.